on here. There's competition, but both of you continue to preface your comments with compliments. But there's something that we've never seen with you guys. Like we just did a whole 30-minute breakdown on every single clip of you guys talking about each other last week, and there was a lot of passive aggressiveness there. There's something going on here between you two. And so, can I ask, what is the state of your relationship with Dana White right now?
No, honestly, our relationship's good. Like, I've never had any kind of falling out with Dana. I can't stress enough the respect I have for him. I've done it on this show many times before. I feel like he is, certainly the greatest MMA promoter and arguably one of the greatest combat sport promoters of all time. The business that they've built is absolutely incredible. The team of people they have there are first class. But you can't expect me, a guy who's extremely competitive, to not want to roll up my sleeves and see who is the best in boxing, because I believe I am the best in boxing. I mean, we're the only global promotional company in the world, and I believe I'm head and shoulders above everybody as a promoter. Call that delusion, call that arrogance, or call that the truth. But that's what I truly believe. And, I'm excited to cross swords with Dana. There'll never be any disrespect, if I'm honest, and I'm not. You're never going to see me slagging him off or talking down about him. I'm excited by the challenge because I think it's a real challenge. I don't expect Dana and TKO to come into boxing and just, sit in a corner and deliver some decent numbers for shareholders. I think they're going to want to have a presence and try and dominate the sport. It's the ego that they all are blessed with, So, yeah, I think people like it. And it's good for me in many ways. It's good for me personally to have that competition. It's good for my profile, I guess, if it's Eddie v Dana, and I'm more than happy.
Yeah, so you got Eddie Hearn right there talking about, his relationship with Dana White and everything a little bit, and saying that, he welcomes Dana White into boxing, which is, very interesting right there a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, very interesting right here. And let me play
Um,
this. Go ahead, you guys go. You guys something to say about it? Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll wait for the next clip. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna play this next one right here. He gets a little bit more in depth, a little bit in this next clip right here.
I'm not sure whether we'll be successful in boxing or we're going to give it a good go. He's going to do exactly what I would say. Look at me when I got my DAZN deal. I came out bullet. I mean, I look back now, I think I might have even got it wrong, but it's the only way I know. We're coming to dominate. We're coming to take over. We're coming to put everybody out of the game. And it's taken us 5 years to get in a dominant position in America. Right now we sit as the boxing promotional company that has the biggest budget currently in boxing in America. You have all these major boxing promotional companies with dozens of world champions and a roster of great fighters who have no broadcaster. They're completely on their arse. And we are in a fantastic position. So, I think that when he talks about he's delivered 2 of the biggest fights of all time, I mean, if you really want to come into boxing and call Mayweather-McGregor one of the biggest fights of all time, please. It was an exhibition. It's not a fight. And by the way, Crawford-Canelo was not Dana White's fight. It was Turki Al-Sheikh's fight. And he was invited to be the promoter. Well done. Good. Well played. I'm sure you made a few quid. But let's not get it twisted. The work that Turki Al-Sheikh has done in boxing has paved the way for Canelo Crawford. Without Turki Al-Sheikh, Canelo v Crawford never would have happened. In fact, it wouldn't have even been a fight that Dana White would have even considered or thought of making. So, well done to Dana, well done to TKO. But let's give the credit of Canelo Crawford to Turki Al-Sheikh, the man that truly paid up for the fight, the man that truly had the vision for 2 generational greats.
He took them claws out in that one, didn't he?
Man, man, like he definitely kept it 100. Like with that, like it was just he was saying like with TKO boxing and with Dana White, pretty much they out there, they put it out this past weekend like, oh yeah, we put on the biggest fight with Floyd and Conor McGregor and stuff, and you got Eddie Hearn, he's shooting that shit down where he like, hey, yeah, y'all, yeah, that was an exhibition fight. That wasn't a real fight. Like Eddie Hearn, and then Eddie Hearn, he up there like, man, it's so crazy. He like,
I mean,
man,
he's not lying though. That wasn't a real fight. You know what I'm
it
saying? So for him to
it
even take
wasn't.
credit for that is crazy.
And then he's saying that it was no the gate, which is no, we ain't even talk about the gate for us that a little bit. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick. So they're saying like they got a $47 million gate on Canelo and Crawford, which is, I posed the issue where it's like, okay, y'all said y'all got a $47 million gate, right? But then y'all out here posing this whole thing where y'all saying, "Oh, Canelo's getting 150 million and Canelo and Buzz getting 50 million." So when you total up, that's $200 million. You got a $47 million gate right here. Like the math ain't mathing. Like
Well, the math isn't mathing for a few reasons. First of all, they still got to pay the undercard, the venue, that whole weekend that he put on, all of that. So, I mean, he's still in the hole. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand why people are touting around these numbers when these numbers still they don't make any sense. You
not
proud of that? You didn't even break even.
and even to add context to it, and they had to pay UNLV and Idaho State between them two squads 1.75
Absolutely.
million to move that game. Let alone you had to pay Allegiant Stadium to have the event there, which we don't even know how much that costs. You know what I mean? So I mean, we already looking at the where the expenses on this is definitely not mathing the way people think it's mathing. They see this number right here, 47 million, and they thinking like they made crazy bread on this fight, but not looking at what the fighters got paid out and all the extra other expenses outside of that for an event. People don't understand how hard it is to put on these type of events. It takes a lot of money, time consuming, connections, etc. And this type of event, it took a lot of that, what I just mentioned. And it's just hard for me to believe. And of course, some of you other fans out there that's, possibly right now, Bud Crawford fans, 'cause I'm seeing the Canelo fans turning on them right now. But in particular, this event definitely didn't make it do what it do. I know for a fact it didn't. We just analyzing the numbers, and this is off the top of our dome with the numbers. And this is
Yeah.
what this number that y'all put out there. I mean, me personally, I believe Canelo made about 100. This man Bud is on record saying that he made 10 million, which I don't believe in the 10 million. I personally feel like he probably possibly made more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like if he's on record saying he made about 30 million for Earl, then he's gonna only make 10 million for Canelo and he fought on Netflix. Nah, I don't believe in that. Nah, that's cap.
And
Like
Canelo Canelo made more than that because if you remember at the press conference, they were saying something like, a reporter asked him, so Canelo's getting 100 million. He said more than that.
man, if he say that, then that 150 may be close. It may be close in between. It got to probably be in between that there. That's the case, which is crazy. This man Turkey just spent all that money. Like, what is it? We're gonna get into that aspect. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. Let me
Hmm.
play let me play this next clip right here of this man Eddie Hearn, man, right here. This is another interesting one right here.
Who?
Turkey and Dana.
Working with Turkey Al Sheikh is a wild ride. A wild ride. And I look, Dana works at a high level. Mark Shapiro, Nick Hearn, all these people. I mean, they're very, very good at what they do. Very smart, but they also like to do what they do and what they want to do. And Turkey al-Sheikh, I'm just being straight. He doesn't really allow you to do what you want to do. He does what he wants to do, and you follow. And I've learned over the years of working with him, you know, your advice mainly falls on deaf ears, but I've also learned that he's definitely not an idiot. He's a very smart guy. And there's a method to the madness. But the traditional ways of going on sale through tickets or announcing the press conference or even announcing the fight is just not the traditional way with him. And I think they're going to clash. But money's money, isn't it? I mean, you know, it depends if sometimes you're prepared to keep your mouth quiet and do as you're told. I am. Are they? I mean, that's the difference for me. You know, I feel like sometimes I know what side my bread's buttered on. You know, and I'm not too proud to say sometimes I will do as I'm told with these guys because it's a massive opportunity for my fighters, for the sport, and for our business. I don't always agree with what they do. And by the way, I won't keep my mouth quiet. I'll tell Turkey and I'll tell the team around him that I think you've done it wrong. Whether they want to listen or not, it doesn't really matter. But let's be honest. Look at
I wanted to get your opinion about what he said on that, sis, right there. I know you
Well,
got some.
yeah. I just want to know where should I mail his knee pads? First, that's what I want to know is where do I mail his knee pads? But
Man.
um, get off your knees, Eddie. There's people in here, bro. Um, I believe him 100%. I mean, we've seen it in other situations with Turkey, how he's very he's a dictator. Let's call it what it is. He's a dictator. He presents himself as if things are his way or the highway. It was Dana White who had to go and fix the Netflix deal because when he went in there, he disrespected the CEO, which was a woman. So he's still in that particular frame. Just like I don't know if you paid attention when that woman reporter asked him a question, he took a minute to answer until Dana White went over and whispered in his ear. So he still has that issue. He seems very, it's my way or the highway, but that's because, like Eddie Hearn said, he's flashing a bunch of cash around. So, you know, it's going to be his way or the highway. Eddie Hearns has no choice because, if I'm not mistaken, they borrowed money from the PIF fund to get him out of the red. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, he's still in debt to Turkey, so he has to do what he says. You know, but just to come out and flat out admit that that was nasty work. Yuck, Eddie.
Mm. That's why, like, this interview was that part was very pivotal. Where I was like, damn, he just openly admitted, like, damn, he follows Turkey rules and shit, and everything Turkey says like that, very openly in public like that, which is crazy. Which is like it's understandable because of the business. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you put yourself in a lane where like you're a yes man, flat out. Like you a yes
Yep.
man.
And that majority of this, see, I like I said before, I have no sympathy for these promoters because they left the door open for a guy like Turkey Sheik. When he came in, they were just
Hmm.
happy to get the money. They were happy to not have to do a little bit of job they were already doing. So they allowed this to happen. And they just didn't realize or see Turkey's end game at first because he was shutting them up with cash. But I believe that Oscar has backed away from him. As you can see, Oscar is very vocal about how he feels about Turkey and, Dana White. But Eddie Hearns is in a different position because he borrowed that money from the PIF fund to get himself out of debt. But again, these are Eddie Hearns' problems. You created this. You know what I'm saying? By not following a proper business model, because Eddie Hearn was losing money too.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's just like he, and then just a perspective from Dana White, like. Dana White is a guy that like he's used to moving on his own behalf. You know, he's following his own orders. He's not following anybody else's orders. And it's just an interesting. interesting factor for us, like Dana White and Turkey working together, because Turkey is a guy that, Eddie Hearn in that clip just mentioned, where, he's a guy that, he wants his team and anybody working with him to go off of what he wants to do. And you got to follow. And Eddie Hearn is on the record in that clip in particular right there saying that he's following the lead. He know how to follow and make the money and and be about the business and not worry about your personal differences with the person or whatsoever. Like, so he's on record saying that right there. Then just to add context to that, like that's just the truth of the matter right there.
Yeah, but see, I mean, yes, that he plainly said that shit. But my question is this: like, what? I guess as far as putting on the fights and paying the venues and stuff like that, but there's no money coming back. Unless my math is wrong, there's no money coming back.
See, this the thing. Eddie knows like that Turkey is flopping. He knows that. Eddie don't give a damn. Long as he's getting his cut out of the deal, he don't care if Turkey flops. He don't care. As long as he's able to get his cut and put his fighter on his platforms when he, throws his events, Eddie don't give a damn that Turkey flops in reality. That's the fucking fact of the matter, though, sis. Like Eddie don't care.
Nah, yeah, he definitely don't.
Eddie going into these events knowing Turkey gonna flop half of the time. He knew it. He knew he gonna flop. Eddie knows this shit. And I'm gonna play this clip right here. Let me play this next one of Eddie right here. Like this interview was crazy.
Viewed them as being an asshole and showboating. When you saw that interaction, because you know all these characters, you know the boxing media, what did you think?
I mean, look, firstly, when you're taking the floor, questions from the floor, which is something that sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, because after the press conference, I will do every outlet individually, basically, for 3 hours after. I don't really take questions from the floor. I allow them to ask them questions to my face away from the press conference, which enables them to ask a broader range of questions. So I have to be honest that, the pressing of that question, whilst it was a very good and valid question, is not necessarily relevant to the Crawford-Canelo fight. The issue is that Dana doesn't do all those interviews. He doesn't give the media access like that. So when they get the open floor, they want to have their opportunity to ask the questions that people want to hear. The issue is if was it Sean? I think Sean Zittel from
Yes.
Fight Hype. If I'm Sean Zittel, I'm now firing in the email to go, well, you said in front of the world to come and talk to you and question you and do an interview with you. When would you like that to take place? I will say as well, Ariel, that they are a stock listed company. It's not for me, I've got nothing to worry about saying nothing to, it's on me, right? When you have a company that size, I think corporately you do have to be a little bit more careful. And although I think Dana's pretty good and honest in most of his replies, he's pretty straightforward and blunt. But this is a very sensitive topic when you're talking about the Muhammad Ali Act. I mean, not knowing the full details, the way it's being reported is that TKO are trying to have the Muhammad Ali Act altered or abolished, which is an act designed to protect the interests of the fighters and to make sure ultimately that they aren't taken advantage of. So the question is, why are you trying to get that act changed or removed?
Hmm. That was powerful right there. A little different
That was
right there.
extremely powerful.
Yeah, it was powerful because it's like he's like asking them, why y'all trying to get the Ali Act removed? And he's telling y'all that the Ali Reform Act is made to protect the fighters. And he's posing the question, why are they trying to get the Ali Act removed?
I mean, that's a damn good question. It's a question that Sean Patel asked him. I slightly disagree with Eddie because, well, he said it later, but Dana White ain't about to do no damn interview with Sean Patel. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
what you
saying?
think? Yeah, I want to ask you, what you think about that aspect though, with
Certain
him
people.
saying, like he literally mentioned that he's like that. Eddie Hearn, he said him specifically that he don't open his press conferences up for the media to ask questions for the press conference in particular. He uses that time for after the press conference. And then he mentioned that, Dana White, him and his team, they opened up the forum to, ask questions for us, the media, during the press conferences. And when it comes to personal interviews, they're lackluster in that because they don't want to give people those, that type of action pretty much, which is, that was interesting to me because of the fact that it's like that was so true because I see Dana White. Dana White not like I've been seeing Dana White, then I've been seeing Eddie Hearn, and I've been seeing Eddie Hearn like literally he don't let media talk too much in press conferences. And then I gotta let me add into context too, in particular for as Sean Zittel for as that situation, which I do agree with Eddie. Like Sean Zittel, he asked the question because of the fact that he knew that he was going to get that opportunity probably at that time to even ask that question and that with Dana White in any circumstance. So he did what I would have did. I would have probably did. I know for a fact I would have did the same shit. I'm asking Dana White that question on the spot because I know after this press conference, he's not about to give me that opportunity.
Oh,
Most likely,
Sean
he's not.
Zattel is about to Sean Zattel's about to be blackballed. You can believe that. And
Oh,
to the
yeah, absolutely.
point that you were making, that is exactly what you do. You bum rush them and you catch them off guard because that's how you get the most honest answer. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that he ducked and dodged that question further lets me know that he does not have the purest of intentions. You know, the fact that Turkey even, went and got Dana White to help him in boxing. So now you got two niggas that know nothing about boxing.
Mm,
UFC is a completely different sport, ran completely differently than boxing. As you see some of the UFC fighters trickling over into boxing. I don't know if you saw that clip of the two young ladies, I forget their name, that was fighting over the weekend. The lady, she was getting her butt whooped and she kicked the other girl in the stomach to get her off of her.
mm.
So, we have certain things like this going on. He said he doesn't want to integrate it. I did hear him say that, but I don't believe him. I just simply don't believe him. I believe that is his ultimate bottom line to integrate it together because he's already running the UFC into the ground. He owes what is it, 375 million they sued him
Hmm.
for in a class action lawsuit. So why is that the man that you go and get to help you quote unquote restructure or rebuild or revive or whatever y'all are dressing it up at the Ali Act because it's called the Revival Act. So where is it dead? And for you to revive something, I mean, you're altering it. You want your own set of rules, just like they wanted their own ring. They didn't want the belt presenters there. Suleiman, he came out and said some things. Obviously, they were able to get that ironed out because I did see him in the ring, I believe, at the fight. And then
Didn't
you have the
want
situation.
boxing thing there
Yeah, about to
covering the
say
fight.
then you have
Boxing
the issue
thing
with the
did
press.
they on record saying they ain't covered any Riyadh
Mhm.
season of Ring Mag events since
It's all about
Mandermall Crawford.
control. It's all about control because guess what? When you control the media, you control the narrative. And if you can control the narrative, well, then you control the story. You know what I'm saying? That's why, like you said before, the Haney's don't control the narrative anymore. That is because they're losing their control over a lot of the, some of the channels that they had, you know what I'm saying, are starting to kind of like slowly back away from them. So there's no one to shield them anymore or to spin it the way that they want it spin. That is exactly why I believe that TKO and Turkey Al Sheikh decided this time around there would be no mainstream media. If you listen, there was a whole bunch of novice questions. They had a bunch of novice comments, well, not commentators per se, but Max Kellerman and guys like that who really don't follow the sport closely and know it details. You know what I'm saying? They had guys like that because they want to be able to control the narrative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me go ahead and play this next one right here. So I'm gonna play this one right here too.
The full details, the way it's being reported is that TKO are trying to have the Muhammad Ali Act altered or abolished, which is an act designed to protect the interests of the fighters and to make sure ultimately that they aren't taken advantage of. So the question is, why are you trying to get that act changed or removed? And the strange thing about that act is that on every show, you have to declare to the fighters on the card the revenue of the event, which is quite unique. I mean, very unique. You imagine that you've got every fighter on the card gets to see the revenue of the show. And clearly, there isn't really a problem with that in the boxing world because a significant proportion of the revenue is paid to the athlete, the talent, the fighter. So maybe when there's a bigger TV deal, the split of that revenue is not paid accordingly probably with the tradition of the industry. And I don't think they're going to go with the tradition of the industry. I think they will think that fighters are overpaid because they are in relation to the UFC and MMA talent. So how is the model going to make the money they need it to if that percentage portion of revenue is given to the talent? And you won't know what that revenue is without the Muhammad Ali Act. So I would love to see the sit-down interview between Sean Dittel and Dana White. I hope that they can do it. It'll be great viewing. But they don't really need to do it. That's the reality. I mean, when you're going into a new market or you're trying to establish yourself, you want to sit down with the outlets and you want to talk face to face with fans and tell them what your mission statement is, what you're trying to deliver in the sport to the fans and for the fighters.
Man, so
He was
that was
100% correct on that. And that is, again, the things that they're trying to hide. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is a key piece of the Muhammad Ali Act that they are trying to reveal. So why, like, I don't understand the people that are screaming this is a good idea, because why would you want them to hide how much money an event makes that the fighters that you quote unquote love so much are a part of? Why would you want that hidden unless you intend on doing some shady shit?
I mean, shit. I mentioned this the other day on my show where I was like, with Top Rank, just think about the fact that they had a $90 million deal with ESPN, and they're not on ESPN anymore. Just think about, the fact that ESPN, when they started Top Rank on ESPN, they were thinking like they were going to build superstars in the pay-per-view stars and be able to profit and make money off of Top Rank, and that wasn't the case. They tried it for several years with Top Rank, funding them money year by year, and Top Rank, it felt like they was shortchanging a lot of their fighters in particular fights and stuff to where they were pocketing a lot of money. You can tell by some of the cards they were putting on. You know what I mean? That's just no, just speaking in particular for as just my thought on that for as them in particular. But like the rights of the fighters being able to see the income being made, I think that's perfect and for them. Now, as far as a promoter, yeah, you probably wouldn't want the fighters seeing what all going out and all going in and stuff like that, which is kind of funny that Eddie Hearn mentioned that because it made me think back about Bud Crawford and Errol Spence when they had the negotiations and he
And
was
don't
adding
forget
things
that.
to the books
Yep.
and stuff like that.
And
Yeah, I
that was
mean, so that's
crazy.
where it brought that into my, into my rear view with that one, which is crazy.
You
But
know, no, you're right about that, but he also sued Bob Aaron for that particular thing, did he not? Keeping him from fights. You know what I'm saying? Thinking that he owned more. So, I mean, just for me personally, it's supposed to be these are the talent. Like, you know what
right,
I'm saying? How am I supposed to know I'm being paid correctly? I'm supposed to just take
absolutely.
your word for it? You know what I'm
And then I
saying?
mean, then just even in a deeper perspective, like at the same time, why even? No, Bud, even with Bud in his situation in particular, like, dude, you sued this man, but you was the one that decided to sign back with that man. Like, you know what I'm
Yep,
saying?
yep.
You could have tried to, when you was a free agent, you could have explored your options, and you didn't decide to do that. You ended up signing back with Cyberrank, and then
Hmm.
you didn't like how it ended. You know what I mean? That was just that's why, like,
Yeah,
I tell
that's
the Book Cover fans, like, when they be like, "Oh, the guys at PBC didn't want to fight him." No, that wasn't the case. Like, and it's not the shit on Bud, because of course, what I'm saying, we show him Bud love for what he did to Canelo. You know what I'm saying, in particular, but I'm just saying in general, like in that case with PBC at that time when Bud was free agent, he had an opportunity to come over there and fight the fights that he wanted to fight, but he stayed over there at time right. That's just on him.
yeah, he has several opportunities, difficult to make cross promotional fights, but especially if he's holding a belt, good luck with that because he doesn't want to take the chance of his belt walking away. You know what I'm saying? That's
Absolutely.
his leverage. So, and I'm sure they all do it. It's not to, shit on Bob in particular. I'm just making, a general statement that that's what was happening at that particular time. And Bob Arum does it all the time. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them do it. They don't, they need to try and make more in-house fights because there's no less opportunity, for their belts to walk away.
Facts. So I'm gonna play this other one. I got two more clips of Eddie Hearn, and then we gonna move
Hmm.
on to these last two rounds.
People, probably 70 or 80% I know because they're big outlets. But the other dozen people I'm talking to, I've never even seen them before. It's a new outlet here. But you've got to give people their opportunity. Every Coog and Cassius, every Charlie Parsons, every Sean Giselle, every Fight Hype started as a startup channel at some point. And you've got to give these guys the chance to get access because they're there to support the sport as well.
Would you benefit from the fact that the Ali Act gets abolished? Would you like for this to happen?
I mean, I've never once thought, I could really do with getting rid of the Muhammad Ali Act. I do find it quite fascinating that you're disclosing the revenue of the show to the fighter. But if you haven't got anything to hide, I don't see why that's really a problem. I mean, the margins that we work off are, I think, and clearly fighters think as well, because they've never had an issue. No one's ever no one's ever looked at the numbers on the show and gone, oh my God, I can't believe how small the purses are in relation to the revenue of the show. So we haven't really got anything to hide. So I've never, I must admit, when I started working in America, I was quite astonished that does happen. But at the same time, it doesn't bother me because I think what we do is extremely fair. And the purses that we pay are extremely fair in relation to the revenue of the show. Sometimes too high, I think. But it is what it is, and that's the market. And, don't forget as well that if this league comes, I expect the prize money or the purses to be quite conservative. Yet, what's the TV deal? I mean, you just said there, we're going to come in, do a massive deal. It's going to be bigger than anything before. Yet you might be doing a league where, that doesn't even, that whole card doesn't even cover the main event of a standard show because of the cost and the market rate and value of purses for championship fights. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, you know, and that's probably what it smells like to some people. But I don't, you know, I don't know what the league. I mean, it's been a while now since it was announced, and I don't know what it, you know. They were talking last week that it's more.
So I got one
Boy,
more to question. Go
that
ahead,
boy
honey. Go
Eddie
ahead.
Hearn know he could. That boy Eddie Hearn know he could throw some shade, can he?
Man, he
He
throw
could
it
throw
so
some shade.
subtly because like
Yes, he
like
do.
he'll compliment you, then he throw it right back real slick. You know, throw another little shade right at you real slick, or it be
That's a
crazy.
backhanded compliment, and he definitely has mastered the
Absolutely,
art of being nice, nasty, especially when
absolutely.
talking about Dana White. So
Yeah, let me play this last one right here for Eddie Hearn right here.
Continued global expansion.
He said in an interview last week that they have already 70 to 80 fighters under contract. Any fighters that, you know, had a fight left with you or at the end of your contract that you want to say where you were now looking at negotiating against them? Did you hear of anyone that was once on your
No,
stable?
I mean, I know probably.
At Penn Foster, I can earn my high school diploma online, on my time, and on my budget.
I can start school when I'm ready.
I can balance.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. I'm sure they can build stars anyway.
In an interview last week that they have already 70 to 80 fighters under contract. Any fighters that, you know, had a fight left with you or at the end of your contract that you want to say where you were now looking at negotiating against them? Did you hear of anyone that was once on your
No,
stable?
I mean, I know probably half a dozen to a dozen fighters that have signed with them. And there've been a lot of fighters that are, you know, we've been looking to use as opponents, you know, in the third, fourth fight down, and, you know, good, exciting guys who will fight anyone. And I'm sure there'll be some undefeated guys as well. But I think they want, and I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think they want talent that are prepared to fight anybody. And you're not going to get that from elite talent that are trying to strategically maneuver a career up the world rankings and are also receiving significant purses as well. You know, I think these guys are going to want people to come in and say, yeah, just tell me who I'm fighting and I'm up for it. And you know, and that's going to be exciting as well. I'm not knocking it, but it's just very different.
Do you think they'll ever?
Yeah, so what you think about that right there, sis?
he's talking about the league that they've started now. I don't think that he directly answered the question about the fighters. I thought it was only about 60. I thought that's what Dana said. Maybe he said 70 or 80, but I missed it. I'm not sure. I mean, they came from somewhere. They came from some of these promotional companies. I think that maybe even Shakur is now fighting with them since he's been a free agent. I'm not really sure how that whole process is working over there, but if he has that many fighters, he took them from y'all behinds.
Yeah, I seen earlier with Brunch Boxing, they put out a few names that was going to be under the TKO banner, like Brandon Adams, Serhii Boychuk, which is Serhii Boychuk. He was with 360 Promotions, which I guess maybe recent time in that, maybe the last fight that he just had with Brandon Adams was the last fight of the deal. Well, you got Brandon Adams, Serhii Boychuk. Colin Watch, of course, he's always been a Dana White guy, and they're adding other names and stuff on. So I was like, damn, like they adding guys on that's like C-level fighters on a staple to like maybe try to groom the C-level fighters into like stars,
Well,
possibly thinking that, and then starting from the bottom with prospects and trying to build them up, and then trying to build like
well,
a full roster of stars like that. Like basically they're doing the UFC shit too, like a
I'm
whole
about to
big
say they're doing the
the
UFC model trying to
fighters.
apply it to boxing.
Yeah, they as far as the fighters on how they building the fighters and for us, like the promotion, etc. Like they're doing everything for us, the UFC model for us, TKO boxing, Zuffa boxing, whatever they're gonna call it. But it's just like Eddie Hearn said, it's just like, yeah, the paydays is going to be very conservative because they got a pay scale out where they're going to pay the champion limited money. The money's going to be very limited. Like it's not going to be no. And I said this on the show the other day. I said, one of the guys in the comments, they was like, man, he's like, I don't care about it. I just care if we get the fights you want. Well, under this pay scale, say all of the fighters that we know was under TKO boxing, just under that one, particular league. A lot of these guys is not going to get the money that they're getting paid currently in these fights to where we're not going to get the fights that we want to see in particular. That's just the truth of the matter. Like that's just the
A
fact
lot
of
of
the matter.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And if I'm not mistaken, under this particular pay structure, there will be no stars. You know what I'm saying? Because that means they have to start paying people more, and I don't think that that's their objective at all. I think they want to pay them less, and I think they want to pay them a lot less, like you said. Underneath the TKO, underneath the UFC umbrella, those guys don't make no money over there. If that was the case, then why was Conor McGregor's highest payday with a boxer in an exhibition fight? And he was a quote unquote star over there, or whatever you want to call it. But I think that that's the model that they're trying to back away from altogether, because the bigger you are, the more notoriety you have, the more like chances that you won't stay over there if the pay is small. But they have a lot of C and D level fighters because those guys don't make a lot of money as it is. So it's probably easier to get them than the stars. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. And that's the thing, because they're like, all right, we get a Serhii Boychuk, all right, but in reality, just looking at his no Serhii Boychuk, you looking at recent time with him, like he's not no star. We know that in reality. So it's like it's gonna take time for you to build up a prospect into a star. Like it takes very much time and the right matchmaking on top of that. Got the right matchmaking, in which we know in recent time, and like with Turkey Al Sheikh, he's not a great matchmaker. He's not. Like
He's
so,
not.
it's just a whole lot to it, and with though the Ali Reform Act, which is I love and respect and gotta salute Shines and Tail for asking the questions he asked and pressing that man because those questions and like I feel like Shines and Tail it was strategic on his end. He like shit. I
Absolutely.
why would I get up here and I can ask this man, about Canelo and Bud, both of these guys up there, but shit, I know I think Shines until was already taking his mind himself, like shit. I know I ain't gonna get no fucking interview with the dude, so shit, I might as well go
Mm-hmm.
and ask him the questions right here and now and see if
And
he
go for
responds to
broke.
'em. Like just to
Yep.
see what it is. Like shoot my shot. And he did not want to ask the question. Then it went to Dana White saying like, "You want to ask me a question and stuff?
You want to be an
You
asshole. Like,
want to
how
be
is he
an
being an asshole by
asshole,
asking you for a
a showboat.
question?
You want to be a showboat? You book an interview with me. You're not going to sit down with Sean and tell." And I said that, like, you're not going to do that, bro. Like, Dana White can stop the cab. You're not going to do that. We know
He
you're
knows
not
he's not going to do that.
because
That's
you're
why he
going to
got so
look crazy.
frustrated.
Because you don't want to sit there and have Sean and tell grilling you for about a good hour about shit that you don't want to talk about your business. That's just the facts.
Mm-hmm. Because they're looking to do some shady business.
I mean, that's why I said that these fighters, they'd be stupid to sign over there unless you a nigga like see start his boy Chuck. They gotta fight over there. Shit, them niggas ain't get no fucking money like that.
Exactly what Gervonta's point was, and I think that that's more or less what Shakur's tweet was about. Turkey removing the A side, B side. But when you know that you are the star, you know what I'm saying, one of the faces of boxing, and you can get that money right where you are, and you ain't got to travel 20 plus hours to do so, why would you do it? You know what I'm saying? I don't know how they done trap Canelo over there, but that's his problem. You know what I'm saying? Turkey offered him a boatload of money to fight. But obviously he took it. The fight took place, but just and as you can see, he's not making any money. You know, so I believe they're looking to start, flipping that back to the black. And with Dana White in charge, that will absolutely probably happen because, as we can see, he's being sued for not paying his fighters. So, he doesn't believe obviously in fair pay for the talent, just the company.
Man, talk about it, sis. For real. That's all. We go ahead and switch to this next one right